Hey Turtle fans, what's going on? Welcome back to another video. And in today's video, I had a very interesting idea. So I'm sure everyone here is familiar with the app called Reddit. And if you aren't, to put it up short, Reddit is basically just an app where you can share opinions, news, typical stuff like that, kind of like here on YouTube, but usually using photos and stuff like that. And of course, like most popular franchises do, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has their very own subreddit, and I took to Reddit to ask the question, what are your TMNT hot takes? Now, for those who somehow don't know, hot takes are basically just your hottest opinions on a franchise that may be unpopular or popular, doesn't matter. And in today's video, I want to go over those hot takes, or at least some of the good ones that I heard, and share my personal thoughts on if I agree or disagree with them. Let's get into the video. Now, I know I just said let's start the video, but quick reminder that this video is just for joke purposes and it is just my opinion. Whatever I say in this video is just my personal opinion, just to make sure nobody gets offended. Now let's get into the first hot take. Now for our first hot take, it says 1990 Donatello is perfect. He's funny and laid back, and his intelligence is subtle. In other versions, he's an over-the-top stereotype of a genius and or nerd. And I gotta say, I 100% agree with this hot take. I feel like Donatello is best when he's the chill, laid-back, relaxed kind of guy who's smart on the inside and very useful, rather than a complete nerd who kind of just talks about tech all the time and really isn't a student of the martial arts. Moving on to the next hot take, this one says, I don't like the newest TMNT show because of its art style. The fights are great, but I don't like the Turtles' overall design. Now, I gotta say I agree on this. I feel like the Turtles are at their best when they look pretty similar and their personalities are what differentiate them. I feel like making them look different in design just isn't really necessary when you have the bandanas right there in front of you. Although I don't think Rise is the worst thing to ever grace existence, I still have to agree with this take. Alright, moving on to our third take, we have I can't get excited about any new version of the TMNT. I think as a franchise, it's passed me by. Now, personally, I can't say the franchise has entirely passed me by or that I've grown out of it. In fact, I feel like I'm more interested in it right now than ever, but I have to agree on the new version part of this take. And don't get me wrong, it's not like I'm not interested in the Turtles, it's just because these newer takes that we're getting sooner or later just don't seem as interesting to me as they did before. As I explained in my last video, the Rise movie, although it looks pretty decent, I never finished Rise as I just couldn't get into it, so I don't think the movie would change my mind. And when it comes to the Seth Rogen movie, it's Seth Rogen, so I don't expect much, and the Turtles look really bad. And the new live-action reboot, although it could be good and has potential if they just listen to what the fans want, at the end of the day, Michael Bay is still working on it, and he worked on the two films we got before, and those films were, let's just say they were interesting, to say the least. Now, overall, I think it's safe to say that I agree with this take, and I approve it. Moving on. Now, for our third hot take, we have a pretty hot one that says, man, I don't like Batman vs. TMNT at all. The comics were excellent, but I honestly haven't been able to finish the movie after the two Ernest times. I don't like the tone. It's written in pace like it's for kids, but the adult elements feel like they're too edgy 14-year-olds trying to justify watching a cartoon Ninja Turtles / Batman movie. It's not engaging to an adult, and it doesn't have the wild imagination of a kid's cartoon. I know it's popular around these parts. I'm glad people like it. I wish I could get on board with it, but it doesn't seem meant to be. Now, boy, that was truly what a hot take is and should be. I mean, that was an extremely hot take. But my thoughts on it overall is that I couldn't finish the movie either. When it comes to Batman vs. TMNT, I was very excited when it was announced, first of all, because, well, it's Ninja Turtles content, but it was also Batman content, and who doesn't love Batman and who doesn't love the Ninja Turtles? And I was expecting it to be kind of kid-friendly and pretty entertaining, and it sort of was, but there were just two things that really threw me off, and I want to speak on those now. Now, these two issues practically come from the exact same scene, and that's when Batman and the Turtles first meet, and they have a really well-shot fight. And my first issue with it is that they made the Turtles look like absolute jokes, and they got completely destroyed by Batman, which, although I think he definitely could beat them one-on-one, the fact that the Turtles ran at him one by one made no sense at all, because if they were a real advanced team, they would have all gone at him at the same time, which isn't even something they need to be true ninjas to know. It's common knowledge. So I didn't really like that aspect, first of all, and that was the first thing that took me out of it. The other issue I had, although be very small, was still very hard for me to listen to and felt very corny in my eyes. It was when Leonardo was speaking to Batman and he curses. Now, I'm not against the Turtles cursing. In fact, I think when Raphael would do it in the earlier movies, it was actually quite hilarious. But I feel like Leonardo cursing is just very out of character, no matter the age. He's the kind of guy that relies on respect and honor and being a great ninja. So for him to say that kind of feels like they're trying too hard to appeal to an audience who never really cared in the first place. Overall, I gotta say that was the spiciest take so far, and I still agree. So far, I've agreed with all of these to an extent. So let's move on to the fourth hot take. Now, for our fourth hot take, it says April X Donatello shouldn't have happened. It felt weird. Making 2012 Donnie a simp was a bad move. Now, I gotta say, this is the first take so far that I disagree with. Now, I know a lot of people agree with this take and feel as if it was weird, but then also go ahead and say April didn't like Donnie. It's really weird and confusing. But I think Donnie having a crush on April was actually a great move. Now, I think making him kind of tech-obsessed and not really be that great in combat, that was a bad move. But making him like April really fit the show's tone, because the show was trying to make the Turtles more like teenagers, and by having Donnie have a crush, it added up. I mean, you can't tell me you never had a crush before where you felt that attached before. Most people have, so it makes sense for Donnie to be there because it would be relatable and it makes sense for his age. Although that was the end of the comment, I just wanted to add one more thing, and that is that for those who forgot, in the first episode of 2012, the Turtles have their birthday and rise above the sewers for the very first time, meaning that they had never been on normal land ever. Meaning that April is the first human female that Donatello ever saw in person, in his vicinity at all. It wasn't through a TV screen, in his area, just a few feet away from him. So it makes even more sense for him to be so blown away by April. Now, overall, yes, I do think it got a little annoying later on down the line, but overall, I don't think it was that bad. Moving on to our fifth hot take, and it says, Rise is unwatchable and I can't stomach more than 4 minutes of it. I think them all being different turtles is pretty cool, though they're all being written to be the party dude. Splinter being dumbed down from being a wise grandmaster who's faced the loss again and again to a stupid couch potato is a real spit in the face of the character. Now, I don't want to sound like Rise Hater 101, but I agree. One of the best parts about the Turtles franchise overall are the characters and how diverse their personalities are. Leo, the loyal, brave, fearless leader who sometimes is a little too bossy for his own good. Raphael, the lone wolf, the cocky guy who's usually more of New York than any of the other Turtles and feel as if being more brutal to criminals is much better than letting them run away, which is why he relates so much to Casey Jones. What I'm trying to say overall is that I feel as if the character archetypes that we were already used to still had a lot of growing space and didn't need to be changed all the way. Now for our last take, this has to be the hottest one yet. This says 2012 Turtles are leaps and bounds better than any others. And first of all, I just want to take a second to say, wow, that's easily the hottest take, and I knew it would be, which is why I saved it for last. Now let's get into my thoughts on this matter. And I'm sure to absolutely nobody's surprise at all, I agree with this take, personally. Now, I was introduced to the Turtles through DVDs of the original movies and the 2007 movie. If I can remember correctly, it was a 4-movie pack. So I saw 2012 around the time it was first releasing, and I watched it from when it started all the way to when it ended. And I gotta say, it is the best Turtles series to date. Now, I do think if you say 2003 is better, I can respect that because I think they're very, very close. And I think 2003 is better than 2012 in a lot of places, but 2012 is better than 2003 in other places. Personally, my favorite is 2012. The fact that Shredder actually killed Splinter has to be one of the craziest things to ever happen to the franchise. I never thought that that would happen, let alone air on Nickelodeon in front of millions of kids. It still baffles me to this day that some people feel as if the show is too much for kids. If anything, that has to be Rise, because 2012 killed off a character. Shows usually don't do that unless it's like a backstory thing that they don't show. But no, we saw Splinter get killed. And I remember being just as shocked as you probably were if you saw it. Overall, I think the best Turtles show is a tie between 2012 and 2003. I don't think there is a absolute factor number one. But I'd like to see what you guys think, as that's going to end it off for this video. If you agreed or disagreed, let me know in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. See you around.